Welcome back to Archero 2, guys, and today we are doing skills tier list for... this will be complicated because it's very situational and subjective as well. So I will cover the skills that I tend to pick most of the time that works the best against the bosses, because usually the bosses are the problem, not the normal enemies. And I will try to explain you why I pick those skills, and that might help you out to progress easier, because most of the skills in the game, they don't have the actual description and you have to guess how they work. There is, although, a wiki, the link will be in the video description, where we have all the skills and their description that shows their effects and everything. So it's a really convenient way to learn more about the game, so check that one out. And yeah, let's go over the tier list. We will start with the fine skills, just as fine as your likes and subscribes. That will help to promote the YouTube video in algorithm. And those are green, those are not the greatest, but some of those are really nice. So basically each category of the skills, each variety of the skills has their own tier list, but we'll place them all in one place for easier access. The first skill is Lightning Meteor Potion. This is not the best skill, it's a D tier right here. It doesn't help you that much. Moreover, I don't really like the potions, most of them, because you gotta pick them up. There are basically two types of builds that you will be using. One where you will have to stand and stay away from the enemy and use the ranged attacks, and second is a ball build where the balls will be rotating around you and you gotta move around the enemy. So depending on that, you will get different sets of skills. We probably will have to make specific build guides later on, but this video should include like everything and overall usefulness in all the scenarios. Next one is Pursuit Strike, which is bad as well because it activates only on the enemy kill. So if there are not that many enemies and in the boss fights, it's pretty useless. So yeah, usually most skills will be rated based on the boss fights because those are the hardest. The normal fights, well, they will help there as well, but mostly we aim for single target damage. Next one is Warrior's Breath. That will give you a bit of attack power. Actually, it will give you 10% attack power, so it's... Where is the B tier? What the hell is happening here? It should be a B tier right here. Let's actually do it like this. We don't really need the game right now because I'm not showing you anything but the skills, and it will be more visual for you. Next one is Demon Recovery, and this is one of those skills that help you to recover health, but it recovers health only on enemy kill, and it's not guaranteed and it's not that great, so it's D tier as well. Now we get the Frenzy Potion, and this is one of those potions that are actually good. It will boost your attack speed, critical rate for a short duration, and those help you out a lot. This is A tier right here. It's not the best thing ever, but it will help you so much to do more damage, especially at the boss fights, and not in the campaign, but in those guild fights and seal battles. That will be really good over there. But yeah, even in the chapter progression, it helps you out quite a lot as well, but only if you have somewhat of a mobility build. If you don't use this skill, which is like stand your ground or whatever, where you have to stand at one place to get the attack speed boost. Next one is a Bounce Arrow, and this is D tier as well. It's pretty useless. Even if you get multiple diagonal arrows, they will still randomly go to random direction, and bouncing doesn't really help you that much. This is different from Archero 1, where this was a pretty cool build. Here we get something else that will help us with that. We'll talk about that when we'll get there. Next one is Fairy's Breath. This will give us a bit of attack speed. I'm debating between A and B tier, and I think it's A tier because this is a really low tier skill itself, like low rarity one, which will give you a bit of attack speed, and it's always nice to get as much attack speed as possible, so you can fit more attacks between the enemy attacks and for chargeable attacks as well, so that helps you out a lot. Next one is Venom Sprite, and I think we can actually put all the sprites, pretty much all of them in one spot. So this is a C tier because those guys, their DPS is pretty low. Of course, they help you when you move in, but overall not that great. Same goes for, wow, they are all over the place. The Bomb Sprite as well, the Fire Sprite, although the Fire Sprite is a bit better than all of the other ones, and the Lightning Sprite too. We'll talk about other sprites as we get to them. We're actually following the wiki order, so we won't miss anything. The next one is Bane of Bosses, this skill. This is an S tier. Now this is the best skill you can get early on, and well, it will help you out all the time because it will allow you to use Angel before the boss fight to actually get yourself additional bonuses instead of healing, and you will be guaranteed to heal during the boss fight, and it will give you 20% extra damage on the bosses, so it's really good. Next one is rotating vampire balls. They will give you 1.25 times damage and HP heal on every hit, so this is pretty cool for healing. This is the best option for your healing that you can get in the game during your runs, but it can be even better if you use the orb builds. I will put it to the A tier. Honestly, I'm debating between A and B tiers, not sure, but this one is really good for healing. Although the damage might be not the best, but if you're a horrible player like me and getting hit all the time, that can be a lifesaver. But it's only useful if you're close to the enemies though, so, you know, debatable. Next one is Frost Meteor Potion. I will put it right next to the Lightning Potion, but it's a bit better because it slows down the enemies, so it helps you out a bit. But even then, you still need to pick up that potion, so if you have the mobile build where you move around and you have that enchanted bow or something, enchanted weapon when it's shooting automatically, that might be good because you can just run around and collect them. In most situations though, that requires you to move too much and damage output will be lower and you will put yourself in the... so yeah, not that nice most of the time. Next one is Flying Sword Riposte, which will shoot the strike sword when you are injured, and you probably don't want to get injured at all, and the damage output of this will be really low, so it doesn't worth it at all. Next one is Wounded Warriors, that will give you 50% extra damage for 5 seconds when you're injured. Most people will put it to the D tier because everyone is so perfect and taking 0 damage. I'm taking a hell lot of damage all the time, including from the bosses, and I will put it to the B tier. I think it's pretty cool. It's not a top priority, but it's better than most skills you can get. Of course, there are better skills. Everything else over here will be better for you, but this one isn't that bad. Actually, if you can take some damage. And it also can be useful during those Seal and Guild boss battles, because there you actually can take some damage in order to boost your damage a little bit more. Now we get to the orbs, to the balls, and we get the first one is Fire Circle. There it is, Fire Circle. So depending on your build, if you are mobile and using the orbs, this is really good. Like, orb builds are one of the best damaging builds out there. You can build around them pretty effectively. And there are, as I said before, there are basically 2 builds. One will be using all the orbs and buffing them up. Another one avoiding the orbs and using projectiles and other ways of doing damage instead. So for that will be A tier. It's a really good skill along with all other orbs, to be honest. I'm not sure which of those are fine tier, which are higher, but basically all the orbs, they will be all here together. They are nice. And which one to get first? I'm not sure. I think Frost, Fire, let's put them in this order, right? Where are they? Frost Orb, then Fire Orb, then Poison Orb. There is a Laser Orb as well. It will be before the Poison a bit because it shoots all around the area, so it helps you with the normal enemies as well. And the Lightning Orb will be, I think, before this, so it can actually, yeah, it's pretty much good like that. Next one is Healing. I can't really count it as a skill, so it's a D tier. Basically, you should use it only if you're getting to the boss fight and you're not sure that you have enough health and you don't have that extra healing automatically. So yeah, it might be not as bad in those situations, but most likely you don't want to get that. In Angel, you always should try to get the buffs, whatever they are, even if they are minor, they will still help you out a bit more than just the healing. Next one is Fury Path, that will leave trail of fire behind you, and this is like one of the worst ones, because you have to run where the enemies are. Moreover, that fire will confuse you with the projectiles, so you'll be like, yeah, it's messing up your game a bit, and it doesn't help you that much with anything. Next one is Long Range Power, that deals higher damage when fired from a further distance. The damage bonus from this one is anywhere from 10% to 50%. And it's really, really good if you use the projectile build, so not the orbs one. Most people will place it somewhere on the B tier because it's debatable, but I will place it to the A tier. And actually, very early A tier, almost S tier. I actually pick it most of the time because my playstyle is usually ranged, unless I get really lucky with the orbs, with the balls, and I try to stay as far away from the enemies as possible, and that helps me out to deal extra damage. So we'll talk about that when we'll get to the beam attacks and all that, but there are some options for long-range combat in this game. Strength Blood, 10% extra HP. It's not horrible, it's C tier, the bonus is really tiny, but overall it's if you don't have anything better, or if it's usually it's an angel bonus, you would like to pick that, because it will help you out a bit. But in most cases, if you can pick anything else, you should go for anything else. Next one is Demon Slaying Meteor, which will release the meteor upon the enemy kill. It's only useful in the tower progression where you get a lot of enemies, but in most cases, you would like to get anything else instead of that. I will put it a bit closer to here, because the meteor damage is a bit higher than the strike damage, but overall, not that great. We need some meteor potions here, so the fire one and the poison one. So they sort of go with the same order as the orbs, so you can pick them if you want to, but most of the time they are not really great because you gotta pick up the potions. We also forgot the ice sprite, which belongs to tier B actually, because this fella can actually slow down the enemies a bit. That will help you to avoid some of their projectiles and kind of their rushes, so will give you a bit more flexibility, but other than that, not that great. Next one is Breath of the Wind, that gives us a bit of movement speed. We don't know how much, but it's a C tier because it will help you to avoid most of the enemies, projectiles, and will make you a bit faster. It's always nice. But once again, not the top priority. If you have anything else, you should get something else, I think. Next one is Blade Potion, that will generate potions for us. I don't remember how many, I think it's 5, which is pretty cool, but at the same time, not that great either, so I will put it somewhere here after the sprites. Yes, strikes, unless you get a specific build using them, they are not that valuable. Their damage is kind of okay, their main problem is the generation speed. You can't really spam them that fast as you can spam your arrows, so potentially the build for the strikes will be way weaker than other builds. Next one is Assault Strike, and this is the only exception that placed in the B tier right here, I think even before this guy, because with your fast attack speed, those things can spawn pretty effectively, and if you have this, maybe then you can work on your strikes a bit. If you get lucky to get this one early on and you decided to go with this option, it might be good. And the next one is Rotating Web, which will actually connect all your balls together and kind of do additional damage to the enemies that are inside of their range. The problem with that enemies has to be inside of their range. So yeah, it looks pretty cool. It prevents you from seeing projectiles a bit, but it feels kind of okay. But we will place it in the C tier as well, because situational and not really useful, since most of the times the enemies will hit the orbs themselves and somewhere outer area of that, not inner area. And those are all fine skills already, so those are the green fine skills tier list right here. Let's move on and add the rare skills now. Those are not as often used, and we will see how they are basically. The first one is Invincibility Potion, and that one will allow you to avoid a lot of damage, so it's an A tier. I don't like the potions, but this one helps out a lot, and I think I will place it right after the orb, because those are still better. But in most cases, you won't have to pick between this and that, so probably let's put them in front, okay. The new skills will be in front, like the higher rarity, the better, right? You can't pick between them anyway. Next one is Perilous Fervor. I can't pronounce that stuff. Perilous Fervor. When HP is below 50%, you will gain attack power and attack speed boost 30% each. It's strong, and even if you don't plan to take damage, if you do, that will allow you to do a bit more DPS, and maybe that will play the role in your survival. And it's an A tier. I'm not sure where to place it. Oh yeah, we're placing them right here, so between those. Yeah, I think it's higher tier than invincibility potion for sure. And the thing with this skill that it can be used in the boss fights where you want to score as many points as possible. So you can combine this with like take damage skill over here and get extra damage. So you can forcefully take attack from the enemy, use all that stuff to get below 50% HP and get even higher DPS on the guild boss or on the seal boss. So that will help you out a lot with the damage with that. Next one is light wing arrow. This will make one of your arrows, well, random arrow, to do additional damage, and that's 2 times more damage per arrow. So that's an S tier right here. It's useful only if you're using the bow build, when you're using the projectiles. If you're using the orbs, it might be not as good, and it's really good with high attack speed build. So when you spam them, it will trigger more often. So I like it a lot, and personally, I think it's a great skill. So yeah, you can see that arrow when it's like huge, basically, with wings and stuff. You get it. Fountain of Life. You will heal yourself and get a bit more max HP, so it's a bit better than this max HP thing, but I wouldn't say it's that great. Let's put it to the B tier in the end of that, since this one is at the C, so makes sense. Oh yeah, forward here. Yeah, pretty good stuff, but it's not the best option to get more HP. There are better things, and well, if you have an option to get this and everything else is worse, why not? Next one is Lucky Cracker, which is a really strange skill because it gives you luck, and I think this is the only skill that gives you luck, and it increases your chance to get higher skills. And the dodge is 8% based on the wiki. I'm not sure if that's the correct value, but it seems to be. And first of all, 8% dodge is really great because it can save you from the angry attack, and the bonus is pretty cool. It will allow you to get, if you get it early, that will allow you to get stronger skills as you go. So I think it's, yeah, it's A tier, but I'm not sure if it's where it's placed. I think it's like really high, so in front of those things, but probably not the best skill. We have to go through the rest of those rare skills before that. Next one is Swift Arrow. Now, this one is strange. Most people hate it. I used to hate it, but I know how to use that. This skill will lower the damage by 20%, but increase attack speed by 50%, and I think it's a great trade-off. The main drawback with this skill that it gets dispersion, so your arrows aren't flying straight anymore, they kind of spread around a bit. And it may be horrible in most situations unless you will get tracking. If you will get tracking, which I always try to get in every run, it will not matter, and it will boost your damage so much, so I kind of like that. On the Discord tier list, it's B tier. I will place it in the A tier. Over here, before everything else, it's a great skill. It increases your DPS quite a lot, and I like it a lot. Abundant Potion, that gives you more potions if you use potions. So if you use potions and you have several of those already, get that will double them, I think, double spawns. If not, don't get it, obviously, because you don't have any, like 0 times double equals 0, so whatever. Demon Slayer, so it will increase attack power for a period of time after killing a monster, 10% damage per combo, maximum 50%, and the problem is, on the bosses, it's pretty useless because we don't have that many minions over there. During the normal waves, it's kind of okay, but once again, we're aiming to get the best performance on the bosses, so I will put it to the D tier. It's really useful in the levels where you have to survive for a specific amount of time, because that will increase your DPS permanently pretty much, unless you are at the boss stage. So I take it sometimes, but most of the time I try to avoid that. Cloud Footed, that will unleash gusts of wind to push back and damage enemies and projectiles and increase your move speed. So you move faster, but I really don't feel like this is a really great skill. If you are good with controlling your character, maybe. I'm not, so that extra move speed won't help me that much, and Gusts of Wind are on the intervals, and this is a long one, so it doesn't really help me that much. So I'll put it to the C tier. Blitz Strike, 5 swords per wave. That's not that much. So yeah, we will put it to the D tier. I really feel like this one is really underwhelming because it's only 5 per wave, and that's it. So you can get more DPS by getting any other strike options over there. Lucky Heart, that has a chance to increase your max HP when you pick up the healing hearts. The thing is, it can be good if you pick it up early, like first 10 rooms or something like that. After that, it becomes less and less useful, because by the time you will pick up enough hearts, you will get really minimal income, so it's not that great. I would put it somewhere here, but since we are... yeah, I always forget that we have the tiers here, so rarity-based, it's not great. Honestly, C tier, but most of the times you won't get that. Bomb Sprite is rare, and I actually forgot about that, so it will be here. Totally useless. It does some AoE, but come on, Sprites are very low DPS. You have to survive for long enough for them to be useful, and probably not worth it. Piercing Arrow will allow you to pierce through the enemies, so that will increase your DPS on the normal runs. The problem is, on the waves, it helps. On the boss, it's pretty useless, because the boss is a single target, so it doesn't help you out too much. I usually don't pick that. It's only if I have a lot of other projectile-based options, and I can get that one, and I'm like, okay, let's give it a go. But most of the times, probably not. Same goes for ricocheting arrow. It will allow arrow to attack from one target to another, and it deals 60% on the next bounce, so it doesn't do the full damage as well. And yeah, once again, only for the waves, for the groups of enemies, and if you want to fight the boss, that will not help you out at all. This can be useful in the tower though, where there are a lot of enemies and you don't have the boss wave in the tower. That might help you out, but most cases just ignore it. Next one is Split Shot, which is actually a horrible skill based on the game ad, which is actually true, because the only moment when it's useful is if you have the laser over here instead of the projectiles and the tracking, so it will split off the target and kind of attacks back, sort of, but yeah, most of the times you don't want that. Even the ad said that it's a horrible skill, don't take it, so yeah, you've seen the ad, right? Next one is Short Range Strike, and this is very debatable. The damage and attack speed increase are crazy, but the range becomes, well, a bit higher than the Orbs one. That means that this skill is great if you're using the Orbs build. If you're using the long range build that I usually use, it might harm you more than it will help you. I pick it sometimes, and most of the times on the boss fights like guild fight and the seal battle, but usually during the chapter progression I try to avoid that, because I have to be way too close to enemies and I don't have reaction speed to avoid the damage and I'm dying. So if you're using some really good projectile build, I advise against that. Otherwise, if you're comfortable being close to the enemies, that will increase your DPS a lot. Next one is Underworld Warrior, which is a pretty strange skill. It will guarantee demon spawn after defeating a boss, and it will give you 10% damage. So usually it's not that great, and if you get it early on, try to avoid that, because it will screw up all the angel spawns and you won't get extra stats. So it's D tier if early on, but if you get it on stage 40 or wave, I forgot how to do, room 40, right before the last or the 2 last bosses, it can become S tier, because that's 10% extra damage and you don't really need those couple more angels. So it can give you a bit more DPS if you time it correctly, let's put it like that. Next one is Stand Strong, and I really like this skill because I use long range build most of the time. I stand somewhere in the corner, it allows me to increase my damage attack speed quite a lot, so it's really good for ranged builds. If you use the Orbs build, you will be more mobile and you probably won't utilize it that much. So for the mobile build, it will be B tier. For the guys who are using the long range build, it will be somewhere here, because yeah, it helps you out a lot. But the thing is, with some bosses, it might not work because they have really aggressive attack patterns and you won't be able to stand for long. In that case, you don't want to take that. So you gotta know who you're facing. But usually it won't hurt you that much because you can stand for a bit and get a bit of bonus anyway. And once again, if you get this, you probably don't want to get any of the potions at all because you won't be running around too much. Sometimes I get the frenzy potion and this one together, and they work together if you are very smart about your movement and placement, but in most cases don't do that. Next one, Fairy of the Wind, that will increase both your attack speed and movement speed. Also attack speed isn't that high increase, and I like it. It gives you both movement and attack speed, so I'll put it in the B tier, somewhere here before those potions. I think it's good enough. Lucky Band-Aid, that gives you a bit of luck and deal damage to all enemies on screen and clears enemy projectiles after. If you get hit, that will clear the screen, deal a bit of damage, and well, yeah, it basically does what it says. I don't really take it that often, but I think it's not that bad, so I'll, people rate it as a B tier. Who am I to disagree, right? So let's put it somewhere here. Not that bad. Luck will help you to get better skills if you take it early. That will help you out a lot. Front Arrow. Now, this one is debatable. In Archero 1, it was basically not adding a lot of extra damage. Over here, it will add you one arrow and will lower damage by 15%. So basically, each arrow will be a bit weaker, but overall you will still gain a lot of DPS, and I think it's an A tier or maybe even an S tier because it will give you extra DPS. I don't know why people put it in the B tier over here, I'm not sure, but for the ranged build it helps a lot with the DPS, so I'll put it to the S tier. I think it's worth it, honestly. It deals more damage, so why the hell not? Warrior's Heart, basically it will increase your attack. There is a chance to increase your attack when picking up hearts. The problem is it's only a chance, so it doesn't guarantee you anything, and I will put it somewhere in the B tier. Honestly, it's not that much. If you have a lot of hearts, it might be A tier, but I personally don't feel that it's that crazy. I picked it a couple of times, and it barely added anything to my attack, so feels like a waste most of the time, especially if you pick it up closer to the middle and the end of the run, it won't give you that much. Sprite boost will give us 50% for the sprite damage. That will be, well, if you have the sprites. If you don't use the sprites, don't get it. If you have plenty, randomly manage to get them, or you have the sprite build, that will help you out, but in most cases you would like to avoid that. Now we get to the arrow effects. First one is freeze, and freeze is actually pretty good. It slows down the enemies. It will be right below those bonuses that we have by default. I think I'd say here, even before the, no, after the luck. So the freeze, then we have the fire, and I think the fire is a bit better than the freeze because fire DPS seems to be way better. The fire deals 0.2 times damage, and I think there are several stacks. I'm not entirely sure how fire works yet. And then we get the poison, and the poison will actually be in the B tier. Yeah, somewhere here, I think. Because the poison arrows, they seem to deal less damage. This is anecdotal evidence. I haven't really tested that out thoroughly because it's hard. But a lot of people favor Blaze to be more effective, especially with those upgrades to the elements. Once you get them, they will boost your DPS quite a lot for the specific elements. And fire seems to be really strong in that regard. And there is also a bolt, which is pretty much somewhere here as well. I'm not sure where to place it. They're all together, pretty much. So basically, by default, freeze the enemies. Bolt gives 30% of your damage. Blaze gives 20% of your damage, and Venom gives 50% of your damage. Next one is Angelic Shelter, that will give you max HP a bit more, and brief invincibility after the injury. So basically, it's the same as HP boost, but a bit better because it will allow you to get invincible for a bit. Not sure if it's useful because I think the game has invincibility window after you take damage anyway. I'm not entirely sure on that. I try to avoid that. But yeah, let's put it to the C tier. It doesn't seem to be that crazy useful. Next one is Circle Boost, that will boost the circle damage. Depending on your build, if you use circles and it's your main build, that will be S tier. I personally prefer arrows and stuff, so for me it will be A tier, because circles are secondary for me unless I get really lucky with the build itself. Like, if I get lucky and I have to pick several of those orbs, balls, then I'm like, okay, we're going circle build right now, and then I focus on that, and that becomes more valuable. So depending on the situation, as always, you got to be flexible when you're doing the run. You can't be, stubborn and go for only one specific build. Next one is charged arrow. That will make arrow to ignore obstacles. It will go through them, double the damage, and arrow will pierce enemies. The problem with this is that it becomes chargeable. And the problem with this chargeable option is it's cool, but only if you have enough attack speed. Otherwise, you might not be able to shoot it at the bosses, so take it only in case if you have pretty good attack speed. Otherwise, it will be a waste, and it will actually hurt you more than it will give you the bonuses. I try to avoid it most of the runs, but it can give you significant damage boost. Next one is Heart of Vitality. That will give us extra max HP and also increase the healing. So we will get more healing per heart, and I think it belongs right here. I think right after this thing. So it's not that bad. It will give you more max HP and increase your survivability because you can heal more from the hearts. So pretty good. Next one is Instant Strike, which is not that instant. That's one strike per second, and it's very low rate, so it doesn't help you that much. That's a D tier right here, and we are done with the rare skills finally. Now we move on to the epic skills. Yeah, not that many skills left, and now we get to the most tasty stuff right here. First one is Rapid Fire Meteors. Double the chance of casting meteors, so it's pretty cool if you use meteors. So if your build has that, that might help you out. Usually I don't do that. Yeah, it will be D tier, and once again, since that's a new rarity, we will get it like in the separate area in front of other skills. It doesn't mean that this skill is better than any of those. It just means that it's different rarity. You can't select the rarity. You can compare it as well, just how I can compare myself with you, because you guys are giving me likes and subscribes, and I would really appreciate if you will do it for this video. I worked hard to get it done. Next one is Beam Circle. That will give us, where is it? Oh, we already put it here. Basically, the cool thing about this one, that it will do AoE attack on the entire screen as well, so that will give a bit more DPS to all the enemies. Pretty neat. Next one is Super Blaze. So this skill over here will allow you to increase fire damage by 50% and increase speed of damage over time of fire ticks by 50%. So that will help you out to get all your fire skills to be stronger. And this is an A tier if you have the fire skills available. Anything of the fire, orbs, your arrows or anything, that will help them to become more powerful. So that's an A tier right here. Next one is Super Rotating Balls. And those things, if you use the ball build, that will help you out a lot. That will be S tier. If you don't use that, I think it's still an S tier, because those balls, there are 4 of them, and they do a lot of damage. So that's pretty cool. They are non-elemental, they just do the normal damage, and I think their range is a bit higher than your normal bolts. So you want to ignore it only in case if you do the long-range build. In all other cases, you should take it, because it will also defend you from the enemies getting close to you, so it won't hurt you to have those. Next one is Energy Ring. I took it once and I regret it. I really don't like it, not because it's replacing your attack, not because if you have this Beam Strike, I think it's called Beam Strike, right? Energy Beam. So if you have the Energy Beam, it will replace it with these Beam Circles instead. I really hated that. And the worst thing about this skill, that it clogs the screen with the effects and you can't see shit, and the enemies, they will get their projectiles to you because of that. So in the Discord tier list, it's S tier. It's like one of the highest ranked skills right here, basically. I personally would try to avoid it. I picked it in the levels where I have to destroy a lot of enemies. It deals pretty decent AoE, but I can see stuff and I get hit by those quite often, so for me it's a B tier, personally. Let me know in the comments why do you like that skill though, if you use that, and how do you feel about that. I advise you guys to try it a couple of times to see how it fits your build. Personally, I didn't like it. Another notice though, that I'm not sure about the Energy Ring, but the beam thingy charge combines with the heavy arrow and all other effects. So if you get any chargeable skill, you can get all of them after that. That will kind of multiply the effects. And the charge time, I'm not sure if it will add up, but it feels to work okay for me. So I get this and I get the super arrow and all other chargeable effects, and it works okay for me. Next one is wall pierce arrow, which is a pretty cool skill by default. But the problem is that it's a rare and you get such a nice options instead of this that it becomes worthless. So you really don't want that, especially during the boss fights. There are no obstacles, so there is nowhere to hide. Next one is slow field, which is not the best skill because it doesn't improve your DPS, but it helps you to avoid projectiles quite a lot. And if you are snail like me, if you're slow, you might want to give it a go. I'll put it to the C tier, but yeah, you give it a go and let me know if you like it or not. Because personally, when there is a bullet hell situation, when you get so many projectiles, it will allow you to kind of maneuver around them because it slows them down considerably and helps you to avoid damage that you would be taken otherwise, especially the charging enemies, all that stuff. That saved me a couple of times. So sometimes if I feel that the situation is very tense, I get that skill. Now we get aqua flight, which is yeah, it's giving you movement speed and you can walk on water, and appears only when there are water obstacles and levels, but most boss areas don't have water, and like it's very situational. So it's a D tier and probably you don't want to take it most of the time because options are way better. Attack increase, that will boost your attack by 25%, so it's pretty powerful. I think it deserves A tier, to be honest. It's a good damage bonus to your skill, so somewhere around here. I pick it most of the times when I can because it helps out a lot. The next one is Super Venom. What does it do? It will double the poison damage and there is a chance of plus 40% damage proc, so it will boost your poison attacks. So yeah, I will put it over here right after this in the B tier. I'm not sure how useful is that. I don't use poison that often, and I really don't focus on this. I focus on the projectiles direct damage most of the time, so not sure. Let me know if you will rate it higher. And we finally get the Tracking Eye. Now this thing will allow projectiles to auto-aim at the enemies. And this is an S tier for sure, and that will require some explanation. So depending on the build, that might change things. If you have the beam, if you use the beam staff, or if you have the beam skill, I use the bow and I use the beam skill to get the beams out, that will allow all your projectiles to hit the enemy. All your projectiles, even the one that's going from the back, this one, backwards projectile, it will shoot from your back, arc around, and attack the enemy. So if you get this skill early on, you can get multiple projectiles shooting all the directions, and they will most likely target the enemy, and that's really strong. Moreover, with this skill, with attack speed, that gives like dispersion for the shots, they will always hit the target. So those two work really well together, and I really recommend getting that skill anytime you get it. Even if you don't get all those skills that you need for the arrow build, that will still guarantee arrow hits, because the enemies, if they're far away, they move and your arrow miss sometimes, and now it won't. Also, it will lower the damage a bit, so it's 10% less damage based on the wiki. I didn't knew that, but even with this damage reduction, it's still really good. Next one is Soul of Swiftness. That will give us attack speed bonus really high and movement speed bonus really high. I don't know the exact values, and honestly, depending on your build, if you use the orbs, the balls, it might be A tier, but personally, I feel like it's an S tier as well right here, because it will allow us to do such a better attack speed that you can move better, especially with the charge skills, do more attacks and avoid enemy projectiles, because sometimes you have to move a lot with the bosses. So I think it's a really good skill, and it helps you to be more mobile, and why the hell not? Next one is Revive. That will allow you to revive once with the full HP, and I think it's pretty good. It should be somewhere here, I think even before the attack, because that's one additional health bar. So it might be the difference between life and death in some boss situations, and difference between clearing the level or failing it. So yeah, and it also stacks with all your other revive options from the gear, from the runes, from the replays, from the ads, so more chances the better. Next one is Enchanted Swords. That will give your souls all attributes, elements of the main weapon. So if you have the fire, poison, and all that, those flying swords will get it. The problem is, we usually don't use the sword. So it's pretty much okay if you have a couple of swords flying around. It will give them extra DPS, but if you don't have them, don't go for this build. I don't think it's useful, at least not right now. Next one is Giant's Strength. That will give you 20% more max HP, 20% more damage, but lower your movement speed and increase your size. I don't feel that it's punishing enough, so I always get it when I can, and it's a good increase to your survivability, so for me it's an A tier. On the Discord it's placed on the B tier. I don't know why, but I personally find it really useful and I pick it all the times. I don't need that much speed, and I usually have the speed from other options, so they work really well together with other skills. Next one is Meteor Pursuit, and it will have chance of casting Meteor when attacking. The thing is, people don't like meteors. Probably there is a reason for that. So it's usually rated as D tier. I would say it's somewhere in the C tier right here, at the end of the C tier, especially if you have this or you have some meteor options for yourself. Not the potions, but I mean the runes and stuff. That might work. So if your runes are suited towards meteors, that works. Otherwise, probably D tier. Yeah, let's actually move it down, so it won't confuse people too much. Next one is Diagonal Arrow. Now this one will add additional arrow that shoots sideways, and those arrows get like 100% damage each. So this will give you a lot of damage. The problem with this skill, that if you don't have the tracking eye, they will most likely never hit the boss. And even when you hunt the normal enemies, they will probably won't hit anyone. So unless you get the tracking eye, they can be pretty useless. But if you are aiming for this, if you want to gamble it and you get this skill available, take it. You won't regret it. So if you'll get the tracking eye at some point, you will be golden. Yeah, so I really like this skill. It gives a lot of DPS. Let's put it like that. Next one is Super Ball. That's buffing your lightning, and it's an A tier. I think we will place it somewhere further down. What does it do? It will increase damage of lightning by 50% extra. So more DPS for your lightning, and if you use orbs, that will help lightning orbs to be more powerful. Next one is Laser Sprite, which will shoot the laser. That will deal 50% damage for hits, and it will penetrate enemies as well. So that's a B tier right here, and I think it's better than this stuff anyway. So I'll put it there. The next one is Super Freeze. Freeze effect greatly enhanced, and that will increase damage by 100% at the end of the freeze. So maybe even increase the chance of the freezing. I'm not sure about that, but we will place it in the B tier a bit further down, speeding up right here. And next one is Sprite Frenzy. Where is it? This thing. So basically, it will boost your sprites. It will give them 50% damage and 50% attack speed. So if you have sprites, then it will help them to become more powerful and more angry. So if you will be able to collect this skill, and some sprites, they might be okay-ish. The problem with this build that you are reliable on the chances of getting those guys. If you don't get any of that stuff, it will be lackluster. And now we move on to the most debatable skill, in my opinion, Weapon Enchantment. I am never sure if I want to take this skill or not. The thing is, it will detach your weapon and it will automatically attack, so you don't have the downtime when you're running around. It's also rated as S tier, and I think I will put it right here after the tracking eye. When it is good, like there are moments when you want to pick that, there are moments when you want to avoid it altogether. It is good in case if you get the orbs build, so you move around a lot to keep the enemy in the range of the orbs, no brainer. If you have the hard bosses that shoot a lot of projectiles at you that you have to avoid all the time, so if you move in a lot, basically. Also, if you have this stand your ground thingy wherever, you don't want that, because you probably won't be standing too much, and this sacrifices your damage quite a lot. Basically, it lowers your damage by 40%, so you get only 0 times 6 of your damage left, and that's a lot. And attack speed decreases as well, so if you have the charged things, oh yeah, if you have the charged attacks, they will keep charging even if you run it. So even if you will have the slower attack speed, they will keep charging and they will keep shooting while you're avoiding the projectiles. So it's very debatable. I want to hear your opinion on this skill in the comments, by the way. I'm really curious what you guys think. I pick it in the chapters, but I never pick it in the boss, guild boss and seal battles. But I pick in the chapters quite often because I can totally ignore the aiming at that point and I just run around avoid projectiles. Feels okay. Next one is a wind blessing that will make you smaller, increase your move speed and increase chance of dodging. I don't know how much it will increase it, so I will put it right close to this giant one. So if you get both of those, you will get both walls. You'll get bigger than smaller, get dodge and get movement speed and all that. Pretty cool. Double swords. Now this one is nice if you have plenty of sword options. I actually had the run once when I decided to go the swords build and it worked really fun. It wasn't that efficient though, not much damage. Probably I don't have the swords build, that's why, but it was fun. So I will put it somewhere here and only if you have other sword options already. If you want to start with it and then build swords, be my guest and let me know how it worked for you. I'm not sure. And then there is a strike boost that is right after it and same stuff. If you have the swords, that will help you out. If not, probably you don't want that because there is nothing to boost. And that's all epic skills, and now we have only legendaries left. We forgot the backwards arrow, which is the very basic fine skill. So this skill is weird. If you have this auto aim and you have the beam weapon, it's worth it. In all other cases, don't get it because it will never hit anything. So I will put it to the C tier somewhere, I don't know, somewhere here. But you know that you need to take it if you have the auto tracking and the beam weapon or the beam skill, and in all other situations it will be useless. All right, anyway, let's go over the legendary skills and then we'll see if I missed something else because I'm really paying attention to what I'm doing here, right? First one is Sprite King that deals 60% of your damage 4 times per shot. And I think it's a C tier dude, maybe B. If you use the sprites, that will help you out. In all other cases, probably not worth it. So if you get all those buffs already, of course take it. If you get it as your first option, there are other options for the legendary skills that probably will be better. Corrosive Field, another debatable skill. It can be an S tier because it increases the damage to the enemies inside the ring by 40% and doing 50% of your damage to nearby monsters. The problem is you gotta be close, so if you're using the orbs build, that's a no-brainer. If you like to be close to the enemies and using like short-range attacks, yes. If you're using the long-range attacks, obviously it will be like really worthless C tier because you will never utilize itself. This skill won't just do anything, so it's up to you depending on your playstyle. Debatable. Now the energy beam, my favorite. I use the bow as a weapon, right? And if you use the staff, probably it won't help you out that much, but for the bow user, that changed the game completely. We have this beam that charged up and it shoots lasers that penetrate enemies and that also deals 60% damage 4 times per shot, so every enemy will get 4 shots. And with the tracking eye, all your projectiles flying from every direction, they will hit the enemies. You probably have seen that gameplay where it kind of loops all around and doing crazy stuff. So this is very strong. If you get this tracking eye, the beam, and some diagonal arrows, front arrows, and anything, that will be crazy good. The only problem that it needs time to charge, so you need attack speed to make it work perfectly. Otherwise, you might have issues if you pick it early on. But overall, I think this is one of the best skills in the game, and I always try to take it. If I take it, I feel happy because like I'm a winner at that point. Next one is Rapid Fire, +1 projectile, and they have the full damage. So that's even better. That just doubles your DPS, doubles your projectiles, and it's really great for the long range build. If you use the orbs build, well, maybe not that much, but yeah, for the long-ranged guys who use the projectiles or beams, it's really good. Super Meteor. Basically, meteors will fall all the time. It's a fun skill. It's not that crazy useful in terms of the DPS, especially since it's a legendary skill and other options are way better. So yeah, it's a C tier. Next one is Flying Sword Beam, and that sword will do 50% damage 4 times as well with the laser, so it's the same laser weapon, and all laser weapons seems fun, so why the hell not? Warning guys, if you have a lot of beams on your screen, you might actually get hit by enemy projectiles because you can't see crap, everything becomes cluttered and it's really hard to see what's happening. Sacred Protection gives shield that blocks 1 hit per wave. This is really good for the people who are careful, that don't get hit too much, so I'll put it to the C tier. Personally, I feel it useless for myself because 1 hit won't change anything. I take like 10 hits per run, per wave, so you know, maybe even B tier. I'm not sure. Let's put it to the B tier. It's actually pretty good, especially if you can avoid stuff. So yeah, Soul of Strength, I think it's this one, right? Yeah, that will give you 30% more HP, and I think it belongs in the B tier, but right after this one. It's not that much of an HP, and since it's a legendary skill, you probably would like to pick something else. Survivability is nice, but all other options are usually better. Warrior Soul, that will give you 30% extra damage, and it is good, once again, but not as good as other options, so I will put it A tier, but there are no diagonal arrows, so yeah, over here. Basically, those two things are better, then you get this. And then there is a power trio that will give you 50% max HP, attack speed, and damage. And I think it's better because it gives you also attack speed, which I think is a very valuable stat, especially if you use the projectiles. So that will allow you to be all-rounder, sort of. And we missed 2 skills here, let me get back to that. Okay, this one is Perilous Recovery. When HP is below 30%, you will slowly regain back to 30%, which is okay, but this is so low that it won't help you that much. I take it sometimes, but I don't think it's that great, so it was the fine skill. Let's put it somewhere a bit better than Vampire for healing, let's put it like that. It's not that great, but not horrible either, so it's okay. It's like pretty good actually. If you want to get some extra passive healing, you might want to get it. And I tried to find what the hell is this skill, but I can't find it, and I gotta, you know, replay the game to find it. I have no idea, so I know it's placed somewhere in the D tier in the Discord tier list, so we'll place it here as well, over here. I have no idea what does it do. Let me know in the comments if you know what's that. So yeah, there we go. That's the tier list for the skills for Archero 2. Overall, beginner's tier list. Then based on the build, it will be different, of course. But overall, this is the guidance for the new players. Now you guys know how skills work, which ones to aim for better, easier progression. And I really hope that will help you out a lot. Let me know in the comments if you get extra comments on this, if you have your opinion. While you're going there, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. All that will help to promote the video in YouTube algorithm so I can make more content like this for you. And check out the video description for the wiki for the LD players who can play the game on the PC like I do, and the playlist with the rest of the videos. Other than that, thank you very much for watching. That's about it for now. Stay and Kosh out. Have a good one. Bye.